Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 52. Tonight we're digging into the Doors' 1971 album, L.A. Woman, with our guest, Hedin.
Hedin, you got her,
Hedin,
yeah.
Awesome. From TAILOUT Brewing out of Castlegar, BC. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Yeah, it was pretty funny when Mike sent over your name. I'm just like, is it Hedin? Is it Hedin? Is it... How do we pronounce this? I don't want to screw it up.
Hey, I mean, you got it right the first time, so that's pretty good. Usually it's Hedin or Hedin.
Oh, Hedin. Yeah. I didn't think of that one.
Hedin.
I get everything.
Yeah, and I love that it's on your patch on your shirt for the people that cannot see this.
Yeah. No, it's like my new thing. I just walk around with a name tag. Helps everybody out.
It's very like 90s grunge. I like it. I think I had a shirt that said Texaco and like someone's name on it back in the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, more people should wear those tags. There's I have a terrible memory for names. As soon as somebody says their name, it's gone a second later unless I see it on a name tag, and then I'll remember it forever.
I am exactly the same, actually. Not a great quality for a bartender, it turns out.
No.
Do you do like a lot of hey man, or like hey dude?
Yeah.
How's it going, dude?
Hey, nice to see you.
What can I get you, bud?
Mm-hmm. I was just telling right before we started hitting record that I got this magical box that came in the mail that was just full of beer. And
wow,
like I said, it was just like Christmas morning, pulling each one of these brews out. And then Mike and I met in the Enderby parking lot right in front of Jerry's where the Hulk Hogan statue is, and we did our deal in the parking lot, and there we go. So I've got some.
Did you crush one?
No, we did not.
We
we were good this time. We did not drink one in the parking lot. No, we saved them all. So I don't know what's happened since then. That was Thursday. Today's Saturday. I still have mine. I've already started one. But Mike, how did you do there?
I have 2 left. Out of the 5.
Man. All right.
I really tried, dude. I really tried.
Well, that's a good thing. And sorry, Dane. I keep trying these island breweries, and I can't get any action in island breweries.
What can I say? Island breweries, if you're listening, come on.
Yes.
Look a brother up.
Well, at least the interior is representing. That's really all that matters anyway.
There you go. You hear that out there?
Come on, step up your game.
Come on.
Hey, tell me what is life like in Castlegar? Because I've never been there. What's shaking down there? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, Castlegar is a pretty cool place. We're right where the Columbia and the Kootenay rivers meet. So, yeah, if you're into fishing, it's probably one of the best rainbow trout fisheries maybe in the world. It's awesome. And the skiing there. So we have a ski hill in Roslyn, which is basically a half hour away, and there's a ski hill in Nelson, which is about a half hour away. So the skiing here is typically pretty good. Not as of late because no one's had snow for a month and a half. But yeah, it's just a super fun outdoorsy place to hang out, and that's why I'm
born
here.
And raised there?
Yeah.
No, I'm from northern Alberta. Actually, I'm from a small town. Beer Lodge. It's up by Grand Prairie.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, sort of a long route to get down here. I'm actually trained as a fisheries biologist. So I used to work for Parks Canada and Banff National Park for the last 10 years or so.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then decided I didn't want to work for the government anymore, and making beer and going fishing seemed like a better choice.
Yeah. Sounds
like an easy move.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, Castlegar's it's a great place. It's definitely a community on the rise, I would say. There's a lot of new businesses coming into town, and like we're the first craft brewery in town, but people have definitely come with open arms for us, especially as not people who grew up in the community. And I've been very surprised of beer flavors. I sort of thought very blue collar town, probably lagers and lighter beers, and that's not the case at all. We're a big IPA sour brewery, and people love them.
Is that just like recently with like the sour and like what have you noticed that it's kind of been catching on more?
Yeah, I think the sours are, I mean, they're a pretty great, refreshing spring, summer beverage, especially it's so hot here in the summer. It's 40 degrees last year.
Yeah.
I actually, when we first started, I had so many bad sours. I was like, we're never making sour beer ever. And then the first couple sour beers we made were our biggest sellers. So they're staying. So people just really love them. They're super refreshing, and if they're done well, they're not too tart, and you can actually drink them, and your mouth cheeks don't suck in, and yeah,
Lots of that.
They are. I mean, I remember a few years ago it was like the big IPA sort of. It seemed like everyone was drinking IPAs, and then sours came along, and it was sort of a nice break on the palate.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the hazy IPAs and the sours are the biggest sellers still. I think there's a bit of a trend going back now towards more West Coast style IPAs, which is sort of my jam. But after owning a brewery, my palate's expanded quite a bit. And I used to be a guy who would just drink those huge double IPAs. And I was very dismissive of the hazy IPAs. I never drank a sour, and now I'm sort of into all of them now.
I've got a question for you. Because I've been like, by no means am I like an expert in the field of brewing, but I've been interested and I've spoken to a few people. It sounds very difficult, and it sounds like something that you just don't really jump into. And being a biologist, was this like kind of like a natural progression, like, or was it like a steep learning curve? You had to like study up, and this was going to be like a big gamble kind of thing.
Well, it's sort of it's a bit of a long story. I'm not actually the brewer. My partner, Mary, she's the brewer, and she's professionally trained to be a brewer. So we met in Canmore, actually. She was working at Canmore Brewing at the time. And and so we came out here together. And so for me, the steep learning curve was understanding the British Columbia market. It is very different than Alberta, what people drink. There's so much red tape and government regulations that you have to deal with, and I'm used to that. I worked for the government for 10 years, but it's a different beast when it's something you totally have no idea about. So the business side, it was a super steep learning curve, and we were lucky enough to rely on we made some friends out here at other breweries, Angry Hen Brewing in Castlegar specifically, and they were great help. And I don't think you can open a brewery in probably anywhere unless you know some people who have some experience with it. There's just, man, it's hard. There's a lot of T's you got to cross and I's you got to dot, it's tough. But even now we're just dealing with getting these temporary patios expanded for the summer. And some of the rules have just changed as of yesterday. So trying to constantly adapt and you have to make some pretty hard decisions, and you have to be pretty sure of your decision, because something could change, and you just have to be, I'm going down this path, and we're just going to stick with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That takes a lot of guts,
no doubt.
And we're kind of seeing this across these different breweries. And we talked to a cider company, and we're noticing like a common theme of like that kind of like taking that leap of faith to get things started from the very beginning, but also like that whole thing of community. This is again this common thread that we see through this, right? Yeah. And you're mentioning it again, and it's not surprising now. We're kind of catching on to this, which is it's cool.
Yeah, it's probably it really is the coolest part of the industry, is that everybody is in it together. Like we're here to take down Molson and
that's also been the consensus.
We're not here to take down each other, so it's great, and we have a great relationship with all the breweries, sort of in the Kootenay area here, and it's awesome. We can lean on each other if we we need equipment or if we need, something breaks, we can just call somebody up and, hey, and you just drive and pick it up. It's great. It's definitely, so I come from Northern Alberta. I'm from oil and gas industry. It's definitely not like that. Working for the federal government certainly was not like that. There's not those types of resources to lean on. So it's very humbling that we're in this to make a humble living and to make some good beer, really.
I've got another question, and this might be a sacrilegious thought going through my head right now, but it seems like the natural thing to do as a giant brewery, because like this is again another common thread where it's like, let's take down the big guys. But it seems to me like it would be almost like a no-brainer to work with some of these craft breweries and some of these businesses that have like connections to community and is there just a complete divide between like big beer and craft brewing? Or
I mean, we're really small, so the big breweries definitely aren't chatting with a brewery of our size. But I mean, you see it in Calgary a bit, where there's some breweries that are starting to get gobbled up by those larger corporations, and you can certainly see the incentive, $1 million payoff. It's pretty sweet. I'd love $1 million in my pocket, but no, I think it's big beer. I think is I sort of envision the future of big beer is actually to gobble up a bunch of these smaller craft breweries, and then sort of on the face they appear to be independent craft breweries. Right. So they run as their own, but they have the marketing power of InBev or of Molson Coors, and I think that's going to be sort of a difficult thing going forward for people who are really interested in independent, locally owned craft breweries. But there's no chatter between big beer and places like us for sure.
Yeah. Right. Let's take this opportunity. Mike, are you drinking a one right now? Can you give us the lowdown on what you're drinking there?
Okay, so I cracked just a moment ago the what is this? Hooked on the Holidays. It is a cranberry tangerine cinnamon sour, and this was one of the ones that you were too scared to try or something.
Yeah, I passed it off. So I was in the care package.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, here, you can have this one, and I'll give you two of these IPAs, and I'll give you this one because I don't want it. So so I'm drinking it now, and it is. It's brilliant. You can definitely taste everything on that list, and it's all very balanced. Like it's not super sour like some sours that I have where it just smacks you in the mouth, and you know how you said before, you get sort of that bitter or that sour kind of cheek thing going on there. But this is a very well balanced sour, and I mentioned past podcasts that it took me a long time to get into sours, and I've tried many times, and for the longest time I just couldn't do it. And then I started finding a couple that were changing my mind about it. So I've been digging that. And the other one that I have here is the the Haze, and that's a hazy pale ale. So I've yet to crack that one, but I'm very stoked for that one. So
nice.
Awesome. Yeah. That sour was, so we brewed, there's only 4 people who work here. Myself, Mary's the brewer. And then we have 2 taproom staff, Malcolm and Laura. And Laura's also she's transitioning into being a brewer's assistant. Hopefully we get her up and brewing here pretty soon. But, we each brewed our own style of beer, and then we sent it out to the world, and people could come into the taproom and vote for the best beer.
Very cool. Yeah, that was
super cool. So that Mary's beer is that sour.
Okay, yeah, because that was another thing I was going to ask you about, because on the top of the can it says Staff Beer Challenge.
Yeah.
Limited edition. So I was going to ask how that is. So it's everyone, well, I guess you said there's 4. So you all just kind of chose something cool and interesting. I mean, what made you come up with a certain one? And the other one that I had before was a Slippery Slope Winter Ale, which is a bourbon winter ale, and that was fantastic too.
Yeah, it's kind of all of us just came up with beer styles that we like, and I had a rye IPA. Laura did the bourbon winter ale.
Yep.
Mary had the sour, and Malcolm. Yeah, there you go. And then
It looks just like
Malcolm had a mango hazy IPA.
Yeah.
Just all flavors that we all individually like, and it's a huge pet peeve of mine when people do mix packs and they throw in some generic beer that they always make. This is pretty unique, where these are 4 very big, very different flavors.
Yep.
And they all turned out better than I expected they all would.
Well, this hooked on the holidays. Don't make it a limited thing. This should be a regular deal. So
Thanks. I'll pass it on. I'll let Mary know.
Do you have a regular sour going on tap? Like,
no, we don't really do regular beers. We have 2 quote unquote flagships, the Bombay Blonde and the Single Spey IPA. And those are the only 2 beers. There you go. Yeah. Those are the only 2 beers that we keep around. And then everything else is rotating. So we have 8 taps and everything else is rotating all the time. We've had a few beers we'll do 2 or 3 batches of, but it's pretty much a new beer every week or 2.
Is that like cost wise? Like, is it more expensive to do a short run like that, or to keep rolling on the same flagships all the time?
Yeah, I think it probably is a bit more expensive, mostly for things like hop contracts or buying specialty malts. Those are obviously different for each different brew you make, but I think it really shows the creativity of the brewer and the brewery in general. I mean, I love the Single Spey IPA. It's my favorite beer since we've opened, but there's 100 other beers that we've made that are super delicious, and I never would have had that opportunity to do it if we only had the 6 same beers all the time. So having that, I think it helps keep the staff excited and help keep customers excited. So there's a bit of a trade-off there, I think, between cost and sort of how much revenue you're maybe bringing in because you have new stuff all the time, you know?
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Way more exciting.
How long is the turnaround from like a start to finish on one of these?
Well, so we don't have our own canning line, so we get a guy from Kelowna from Okanagan Canning to come in and to do our canning. So we do that about pretty well every 4 to 5 weeks.
Yep.
We get him in. So pretty well 4 to 5 weeks we have 3 or 4 new beers out
awesome.
in cans, and then we also have probably a couple extra on tap in addition to this in that same time period.
Is that like a truck, like a canning device on a truck?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So he has a 3-head cask canner, and it just slides into a cube van basically. So he brings the cans and the canner, and then he just comes for a day, and we do a super long day. We do maybe anywhere between 30 to 60 hex in a day, and then the next day I drive it around and deliver it.
Wow,
awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty good service for these smaller breweries. He's pretty new. He's only been around for a year, Okanagan Canning, but the other bigger canners like Vessel Packaging is sort of the big one in the area, or mile 37. Get confused as a brewery too. Yeah, but they want to do say 60 or 70 hect minimum, but we're a 10 hect brewery. We only have 5 fermenters, right? So would be full of everything, right? So it's nice to have the flexibility of a guy who's willing to drive out from Kelowna and do some smaller runs with us. It's great. Saved us during COVID, certainly.
Oh yeah.
What's out?
Like a specialized business,
Awesome.
but like one that would be on the rise, I would think too, right? Like,
yeah,
for sure. I think it's hard because people always want. I think that's the thing for breweries is they always want to get the canning line in because it certainly really gives you the flexibility. If you have the line there, you can do your canning line run, and then that tank is open. But we have to wait a month, so there's beer sitting for longer than it actually needs to. But it's just sort of the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you doing all of these? Where's this all going down? Like in one one gigantic, massive warehouse kind of thing, or are you got different things going on in different areas?
I'd like to say it's a giant warehouse, but it's definitely not a giant warehouse. So the previous place that was here was I will affectionately call a dive bar, and we took it over, and it has there's 8.5 to 9 foot ceilings in here, all through the bottom. So we're part of there's a hotel that owns us, and there's a restaurant above us. So we have to get some tanks custom made to fit in the space. So the tap room and the manufacturing facility is in the same room, but it's all glass. The manufacturing side's all glassed in.
Wow.
So you can see Mary working around in there. People,
Awesome.
People want to stare at you. Yeah, it's great.
It's like a zoo exhibit.
So that's pretty smart too, because you got a restaurant above you. You said so. They got you guys on tap up there, or? Yeah.
So the big thing. One thing, we don't have space to have a kitchen either, and I didn't really want to come in from not being in Castlegar and start competing with other businesses. So this was a great opportunity for us to be, supply beer for you, but we're not competing with food. In fact, we'd like for people to bring your food down here. So that's worked out really well. It takes, for a community that's never had a brewery and it's never experienced sort of you can take food from wherever and bring it in. It's taken a bit of time to get that going, but it's pretty cool to see people bring food in from every business in town. It's great.
Right on. Yeah, that's got to be exciting for people.
Yeah, I think so. It's we have the Selkirk College here as well, and we've had students show up with pots of mac and cheese and things like that. So that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's appreciated.
Yeah, I was a student for a really long time, so I totally get the mac and cheese binge with a couple of pints.
Totally. Hey, Dane, I feel so bad for you. So what are you drinking? Let's shine the spotlight over on your side there for a sec.
Well, to be honest with you guys, I was not going to drink tonight because I felt sick today, but I seem to be feeling all right now.
You rallied.
I did. I got a Moon Underwater, which they had a Dunkel, which I really liked a long time ago. This one is called the Colonel, Kentucky Common Ale, and so there's corn in it apparently, and you can't taste the corn, but it's sweet. It's got a sweet little kick to it. So that was interesting. And right now I'm on a Town Site Brewing the hazy IPA, the Mystery Reef hazy IPA, and it's great.
The previous beer, sorry, can I see the can on that one? Can we?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I got some blurring action. This is my work computer, so my office is all blurred out.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Yeah, that's cool.
So this is from Field 5 Farm. There's like a song on the back, which would be fun to sing. Maybe not right now, but it's all about the brewer going to Field 5 Farm, and that's where they get the corn to make this awesome beer.
Cool.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wanted to also add too, there was one that we didn't talk about. Well, first of all, I got to give you props, and Mike, I'm sorry because I kept this one. But this Bonfire Brown Ale, I was excited about it as soon as I saw it.
Oh,
and
I am jealous now.
It's great. I'm not just because you're here in front of me. I'd say that if you weren't here, but it's excellent. It's really, really good. I like this one.
Thanks. Yeah, we try to always have sort of a brown or an English style beer on tap all the time, and this one is. I also agree. It's fantastic. I've been drinking a fair bit.
It's like Newcastle kind of it's very close to it.
Yeah, we've been trying to do we've done a few browns, and we try to keep them really on the dark side. So there's a nice maltiness body to it. It's got some good caramel flavors coming out. It's super smooth. It's not really roasty. It's just malty caramel
tasty.
goodness.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
Taste.
I'm all over it. The other one that we did not mention was the Puck Luck West Coast Pale Ale. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That one.
nice. I like
And-
the-
Super cool
these
cans.
write-ups are awesome too. This one's good. Like flying down the wing, puck slides off your blade, but it bounces off the defender's skate. Puck hits a rut and lands right on your stick. Now you're all in all alone. Sometimes, just sometimes, puck luck is on your side.
Dude,
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, so good.
Yeah, I was sick of reading what everybody thought the beer should taste like, so I just decided to write a bunch of random words on cans.
Is this your writing? This is your
Perfect.
blurbs? Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Perfect.
So all the cans are, we don't say anything really about the beer, just what's on the label. You know, it's hazy IPA or whatever. But all the little write ups are a little just write up.
keeps
about
it
nothing.
interesting.
And to be honest, I appreciate it because us common folk, when we're reading about like this type of yeast and it should taste like this and that, and it's really hard. It's really hard to like, pick out those flavors or understand why this yeast tastes this way or that way. So sometimes it's nice just to read a little story about hockey.
Absolutely.
Not feel like you're a numbskull for not knowing this type of yeast and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially when it gets into talking about different hop profiles. If you're not drinking tons of IPAs and with that you really like a specific hop or something like that, it's I don't really think it matters as long as the beer tastes great. Who really cares what the flavor profile is?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And when they put numbers on cans too, like all the different numbers on the side, and you're like, am I supposed to know what this means? Because I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But somebody does, maybe, who's reading this. I'm not sure, but yeah. And I'm drinking the Bombay Blonde right now, and this is also great. And I was going to ask you too about the alcohol content in each of these. It's fairly low for the most part, except for the rye IPA, 6.7. Hey, like 5%. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of this batch of beers are sort of all around that 5-6-ish range.
Yeah.
That's typically where we keep our beers. We do a few big ones. We do some double IPAs, and we do some session ales as well that are a little bit lower. But we try to keep everything in that drinkable range, I would say. We haven't done any imperials or anything like that yet. Part of that is just our scale. We're small. It's really hard to sell 1,000 liters of an 11% imperial stout. So we kind of have to make things in that drinkable, sessionable range. We've done sort of our highest beer is about 7.5, but
That's enough.
yeah,
I mean-
my personal tastes are when you get above that 7.5, 8 range, I get a lot of boozy taste to it, and that's not really why I'm into drinking beers.
Yeah,
right.
I'd rather have full body flavors, and that's not to say that there isn't some awesome beers that are high test 8, 9, 10, 11%, but I'd say for the majority, getting into that sort of 6, 7 range is the bread and butter, especially for good IPAs.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially if you like drinking beer.
Yeah,
Well,
you want to be able to have 3 instead of have
Yeah.
8-ounce glass of an 11%.
Yeah.
We got to jump into the doors, I think, a little bit, don't we? Don't we have to talk?
I think we should. I'm pretty excited about this one since you brought it up, and yeah, it's been a solid week of hard doors listening.
Yeah.
As it should be every week.
Can you tell us why you chose that?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I somehow got into the doors. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. My dad's pretty into classic rock, and I took a deep dive into the doors. I was really into it. I had the box set when I was 16, and I just sort of got into a lot of the deeper doors tracks. And I went to university after, and you're really trying to find yourself as a person, and Doors really spoke to me at that time of my life. And like I said, I was definitely had a few beers and had some dark nights with the turntable, listening for sure.
Yeah.
And and then I started working in the national parks, and I guess I hadn't really listened to the Doors in a long time. My musical taste sort of switched. I was listening to a lot of bluegrass and folk music. And then we hired Malcolm, and just one day in the tap room, I was sitting there having a beer with him, and he says, "Hey, have you ever heard about the Doors before?" I'll tell you about the Doors, man.
Here we go.
And he got really into it, and it brought me right back into it. And we've been, him and I have been listening to tons of it. Malcolm's dad does open mic here every Monday nights, and he plays a couple Doors songs every week as well. And it's just cool. The Doors they have such an interesting place in rock and roll history. They don't really fit in anywhere. And like they don't have a bass player. It's like, what rock band has a bass player? So I think they're really cool. Jim Morrison was, as I was growing up in high school, he was certainly an idol, definitely not the greatest person to look up to. But man, he write a song, and I feel like he spoke from the heart. He kind of laid it all out there,
Yeah, he definitely led, with his poetry. So
yeah, it's such a cool band. And LA Woman was, for people who listen to the Doors, LA Woman brought the Doors back to their roots. That it was recorded live,
super stripped down.
Yeah, and like bands don't record live in a studio anymore. It's such a cool thing to do, and it's so bluesy, and Morrison sounds like he's 70 years old with his voice. It's amazing to see the transformation in the man and the band within a 4-year period. It's wild.
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool that they took it from being a very polished production side to, okay, we're not going to record in a studio. We're just going to set up something in our regular jam space that we live in anyway.
Yeah,
and you get to the point where Jim is recording all his vocals in the bathroom, and like it's just so cool, and you can hear it too.
And
you
it
can
all
hear
just comes together. It's it's awesome.
I think we were best friends in another life, man, because I had the box set too, and like I don't know, I've always loved the Doors. Like I've always, and I remember too, like Dane and I used to live together in this basement suite, and I remember I had this. It was the Doors, "Waiting for the Sun" on CD. And we just between the two of us, we just passed it amongst both our vehicles for going to university. It was just it was in Dane's truck for 6 weeks, and that's all we listened to was just "Waiting for the Sun," the Doors, right? But I just and my dad had the greatest hits on vinyl, so I kind of connected with that, and I remember seeing the movie even when I was a younger kid too, probably younger than I should have, probably watching that.
Oh, Val Kilmer?
I was like, I don't know. I've always, and same thing with the dark nights around the turntable, listening to American Prayer, just thinking about life and contemplating yourself. But, we talked about these albums that kind of or these bands that came into our life at the right moments, right? And, we talked about Soundgarden, Super Unknown. That was one of the albums that we said it was kind of at that right time. And the Doors were just at the right time, kind of around that same time for me as well, right? And but LA Woman, it is everything that the Doors are, I think, in one album, right? It is psychedelic at times. It's stripped down and bluesy. It's kind of drunken, kind of rock to it at the same time, but still he's got some ballads in there and makes you think. It's perfect. Yeah. And I've always loved the album cover too.
Yeah, definitely.
Jim looks so guilty, like he's just done a whole bunch of something.
As he did.
Yeah.
You know, I read about that album cover. Maybe you guys know this, or maybe you don't. But the previous 2 albums they released with like younger pictures of Jim Morrison on it. It was like compilations. So they released them when he was like, wearing the leather pants and the belt and everything. And he was like, by the time they did the second one, he was so pissed. So he's like, I'm doing LA Woman my way. So he like full on beard, full on hair. And he said he wanted to like lean down and look shorter than the rest of the group so that he didn't like want to be like the sex symbol or like be seen like that.
The star.
And Ray Manzarek said that what you don't see is that he's holding a bottle of Jack like in the bottom of that picture, and he's just loaded, right? Like just out of his tree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's always that album cover too is done it for me. The colors and like just and he kind of looks like Charles Manson. I always thought he looked like Charles Manson on that cover, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's amazing.
He doesn't look very inviting. He doesn't look very friendly. But I mean, like,
yeah,
that's what makes it super cool.
Well, it's amazing that they got it recorded and finished with him in that state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, did you ever see his final resting spot? Did you ever make it there?
Hey, man, I'm actually slightly embarrassed to say that I went there twice.
Yeah.
I went there twice.
Did you put a cigarette?
No, I didn't do any of that kind of
were you
stuff.
one of those
But
people?
and you know what? Both times it was just pouring. And it was just perfect, man. Like just finding his grave and kind of the first time I kind of came around the corner and it was like Riders on the Storm kind of feel to it. It was just, and you're in Paris and really cool. Really cool. But yeah, a couple times went in there. But I mean, good pick because we haven't done any doors yet on this show. So,
yeah, it's been on the list since the start, and we just haven't gotten around to it. So it's great.
Yeah, it was good. I looked through the ones you guys have done, and tons of great selections you've made. And the hip is my other love. So you've with this one you've hit both of them basically.
Nice,
Beauty.
That's good. So what do you got out of all these beers that we have here? What if we came in there today? What would be different? Like what could we get that we don't have here?
I think all those ones are on tap right now, but we have a grapefruit lime sour coming out tomorrow, and we have a Cascadian dark ale coming out on Monday.
Ooh, nice.
So those are pretty rad, I think. I'm a huge fan of those black IPAs, as long as they're not super roasty. But
Can you tell us what goes into the black IPA? Because I don't know.
So black IPAs or Cascadian dark ales, if you see either one of them, they're both the same. It's just a different name. So you can put a lot of roasted barley in to get the dark flavor, or you can put some things, some adjuncts in, like midnight wheat is what we use in this one. And so it gives you the dark color, but it doesn't really give a lot of roasty flavor. So it gives the brain a little bit of a trick. You can have a pretty West Coasty style IPA, very citrusy, super bitter. But it doesn't, and the beer is black, but it tastes like an IPA. It's very good.
Cool.
Gives the mind a little bit of a trick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're nice to just having a little bit of extra body and backbone in those beers really, I think, helps accentuate the hops as well. Is it a nice balance? So you can have a really bitter beer, but it's actually quite well balanced with the malt that's there. So I don't know. They're tasty. I love them.
Yeah. Have you guys had a black IPA?
Never.
I have.
I'd love to try one though.
Probably get some out too.
That would be great.
Man.
Yeah.
You guys are killing me. You guys are killing me.
Oh, it's I know. I feel bad, but I'm trying. Like I said, I'm trying. It's nobody's.
I'll start putting together a care package for you, and I'll just send them out once a month.
Sounds good, man.
Cool.
Sounds
It is
great.
Christmas every time that stuff
do
comes
it.
in the mail, so it's fantastic. Yeah. That, and I was gonna ask you too about the cans. Who does like the artwork and the and your logo and stuff like that? Was it anybody in specific or?
We have a company, Planetcom, that does all the labels in Edmonton. They're sort of friends of friends. And yeah, we've sort of let this guy, Nathan, who works there, he makes all the labels. I basically send him the name and the alcohol percentage, and he just comes with something.
Cool.
And they've all been super awesome. Like, I can't be happier with them, actually.
Yeah.
So we've tried to keep the logo at the top for all of them.
The forefront of things. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're trying to keep the labels fairly quote unquote simple, I would say. I feel like breweries have switched to really fancy labels, and they're super cool to look at. And like, you have metallic, sometimes you have some texture to the labels. I think that's all really cool. But I think everybody's doing that now. So they don't stick out as much as they used to. So it's nice to have a label that's just pretty clear. We have the TAILOUT Brewing logo at the top, and it's super recognizable on the shelves. Yeah.
Simple stands out now. It's crazy.
Can someone hold up a can so I can see one?
Oh, that's washed
There we
out.
go. There we go. I got it now. My next question was going to be like, can you explain the name? But I got it. I see the logo and
TAILOUT.
Okay.
Sweet.
Now, where's the fishing spots? Where do we need to go? where
If we're coming out,
oh, come on, man!
Keep in mind, there's thousands of listeners.
You know what's kind of funny is
Ears
that on
perked.
my stag, we went fishing in Canmore. That's where we were. So that was a good time.
Yeah, Canmore's a pretty rad place. I had a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
I was there for 10 years, so it was lots of fun being there. And the fishing's definitely not as good in the Rocky Mountains as it is out here. Just the fish are smaller. But you can fish right in town in Castlegar, honestly. And it's a really great walleye fishery and a really good rainbow trout fishery.
nice.
Yeah, you can catch probably 15-pound rainbows and 10-pound walleye kind of thing.
10-pound walleye. Wow.
And out of where? Sorry, what is that out of the lake?
The lakes are good too. I don't typically fish the lake. I'm more of a river guy, so I just fish the Columbia or the Kootenai right in town. I have a couple of buddies with boats out in Janelle, so they're nice enough to take me out in exchange maybe for a couple of beverages. But yeah, there's some excellent spots between Castlegar and Trail, which is about a half hour away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I did not think the fishery was going to be this good. I go up north every year to Smithers Terrace area to go steelhead fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people who've moved here from up there and they just stayed here because the fishing was so good. They don't make the trek up.
Really?
Big steely, so it's good. Yeah, it's good.
You ever been on the island for the salmon run?
I've actually never been to the island at all, which is very sad. I have a really good friend who's from Campbell River.
There you go. Yeah.
And I got to get out there and check it out.
That's okay. Neither have I. So it's
Road trip.
Neither have I.
Road trip. Yes, pick you up
Yeah.
in Castlegar. Let's go. Yeah,
It's
It's got to be done.
that'd be.
Yeah, here it's quite a cool place. I know the salmon runs all the salmon runs last year were not great, but I think this year should be a really good run by the looks of things for steelhead anyway. So we'll see. It was pretty disappointing last year. I drove a lot of kilometers and didn't catch anything for the first time in 20 years, maybe.
Oh man.
Wow. Have you ever done any fishing out in Saskatchewan?
No, I've never been to Saskatchewan either.
neither have I.
Meadow Lake, man. I've only fished Meadow Lake. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to go up north, way far north of North Battleford, and for jack and walleye, and it was fantastic.
I would imagine it'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Magical place. You would never think it's Saskatchewan. It's beautiful. It almost looks like BC out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fished a bit in northeastern Alberta, which would be sort of similar terrain, boreal forest, huge lakes, lots of trees.
Yeah.
Big pike, big walleye.
Yeah.
I'm jealous now. I just don't want to be out there.
Well, you're running a brewery, man. You're running an awesome brewery.
I know. I thought I was gonna have all this time to go fishing. There's no time. There's no time.
And when you do get out, you drive 1,000,000 kilometers and catch absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better though, man, because when I get skunked and like I don't have nearly as much experience as you do, it makes me feel better. You know. Thank you, man, because it just makes me feel better, you know, because I get skunked often and I don't know why. I haven't caught a fish in Shuswap Lake yet. Like I can't do that. Haven't found the. I know. The fish finder tells me they are there too, but nothing.
You need a new fish finder, man.
Or something. I don't know. It's my scent or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Oh, he's coming. Hide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm probably like stretching this a little bit, but I remember back when I was young, we used to use garlic marshmallows as bait. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, and I think it's like still some of my Albertan because we're all from Alberta too. So yeah. It's our Albertan like kind of like my jack fishing kind of coming out that comes over to BC, and then I'm like, you can't really use that for like trout and
it's a bit different for sure.
Not quite the same technique.
Where are you guys from in Alberta?
Edmonton.
E-Town.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I went to university there. I love Edmonton. It's a great place.
Did you go to U of A?
It really is.
Yeah, U of A, yeah.
What year did you graduate?
Oh, man. 2012 for my undergrad, and then 2019 with my master's.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're quiet over here because
we're I don't want to tell you the graduation year on that.
And I'm the only one that didn't go to U of A in this group, so
saved yourself a lot of money, my friend.
Education, what's that?
Yeah, especially if you do like a 6-year master's degree, you definitely saved a lot of money not doing that.
The lifetime student, yeah.
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time,
And
but I have to say,
why the switch? Like to go from that to brewing? Is it just to try something different?
Is the lifestyle different, or?
I think there was a lot of things. I was at Parks Canada for 10 years, and I was sort of at the peak of where I could go. There is the fisheries department's quite small. It's just the mountain parks, so Kootenay, Waterton, Banff National Park, Jasper National Park. So there's only 3 positions higher than me, and those people are relatively new. So if anybody who's been in the government, those people don't get out of those positions. So I probably would have to wait 30 years to move up, and I'm just not that type of person who's comfortable being in that position for 30 years. There's always the drive to do more. So I was just willing to take a chance. When we first started this, I was 29. So I sort of thought, if everything goes sideways, like I'm 30 years old, right? This is the time to take a chance. So here I am. And then it's over a couple of beers talking with your buddies, starting a brewery seems like a really easy thing to do.
It's a cool story. It's a cool story.
So here we are. So I really wanted to do it in northern BC, Smithers Terrace, purely for selfish fishing reasons. But when we were looking around, there's already a couple of breweries starting up. Sherwood Mountain right there, but just couldn't really make it work financially, and so we're searching around BC. I always knew I wanted to be in BC, so Castlegar, population of 10,000, doesn't have a brewery. Fishing's awesome, skiing's awesome. It seemed kind of like a no-brainer. So, yeah, we must have been the largest center in BC left without a brewery, probably. Like, I can't think of another town with 10,000 people that doesn't have a brewery.
Salmon Arm, man.
They still
The
don't
only
have
thing
one?
that they have is the one in the tap house, the Shoe Shop Brewing Company, but they only sell out of there, and they only, we can't even buy it in the liquor store in town. Can't even get it there. So,
Right.
and the guy came. I told you guys about the Morrow Brewing Company. They came into town, gone, out of business, done.
Wow.
So they were there for, I don't even know, man, 6 months. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
I think it's
we got nothing.
I think it's pretty tough to come into a place and kind of strong arm your way in. I guess you have to really be part of the community. It's the community has to accept you before you're going to be successful. That's just how it is. And if I hate to, knock on my Alberta brethren, but if you're just going to come in and punch a pipeline through,
Yep.
metaphorically, that's just not how it works. We're so much better off now that we've been here for a couple of years and we've established ourselves and we're part of the community. We're in, I'm part of the Castlegar Wildlife Association. I'm on the board with the Chamber of Commerce. I think you really need to show the community that you're here to stay and you're not just here to make a paycheck, right? So I think that's probably the hardest part about getting a new brewery anywhere. It's it's a lot of work.
Yeah. There it is, right there, right? Like it's a lot of work, but again, it all kind of starts with that, like willing to take that step, and to jump out of your comfort zone, like way the hell out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody who starts one of these things, they sort of have 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a long time. And there's a point where you have to say, look, I'm going all in. And if you don't go all in, you're not going to make it. There's 0% chance you're going to make it.
Yeah.
And it's, I had a full-time job, Parks Canada, with a pension. I was basically on tenure. Could have been there for
Ever
40 years, right? So that's so it's a big thing to give up. But I also didn't want to be one of those guys that's just staring at their computer every day, hating their life. So you kind of have to gauge your, what you want to do.
That's not so bad.
Yeah.
I used to have such a fun time. I was in the field all the time. I'd be helicoptered back into the backcountry. It was honestly a great time. But unfortunately, the higher up you get, the less outdoor stuff you get to do, and the more
They got to keep you alive, man.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, I also found out that having a brewery is also quite a bit of paperwork. So I don't actually get to go outside.
Yeah. You're doing all that paperwork, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're a pretty small team, right? Yeah. So I basically do all the paperwork. There's a group of owners of us, and we're all from Alberta, and so, but I'm the only one Mary and I are the only ones that are here, and so I sort of pawn off some of the accounting on other people, but I do all the day-to-day general managery stuff and all the other stuff that the BC government requires, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's got to come in handy. I mean, I ran a small business for a while, and there's a group of us that sort of, whenever you had like a tax problem or, you needed to speak to a lawyer about something, there was always like someone had a tip or an email for you. And it's always nice to it's like your peers sort of vet people, and this accountant will do you good and won't steer you wrong. And it's just that assurance is worth a lot.
Sure. We had, we've sort of had some bumps along the way with bookkeepers and adding that extra stress or having to go through your books again a year after, like just such like it is actually terrible.
Yeah.
And it consumes so much of your time that could be spent doing other things that are so
Not
much
doing that.
healthier.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I love the misconception where it's like when you run your own business, you're just there being creative and just like, I'm Elon Musk. It's going to be. No, you're doing taxes.
yeah, that's basically exactly it. You're just paying bills and paying taxes. That's pretty much. I mean, the hardest thing for us is, being super small, 4 people. It's really hard to be actively engaged in, say, social media or trying to sort of plan ahead for events and things like that. And we're just getting to that stage where our social media presence is more regular, and we're posting events sort of on the same day, things like that. And all that takes there's a huge amount of groundwork. Taking photos, I never thought taking photos would be so hard. Like I don't have any social media, so this is all pretty new for me, and the way people react to different types of media is fairly interesting, and it's always ever changing. Just keeping up with all that it's actually exhausting. It takes up a huge portion of every single day.
Yeah, it's like you have to prep everything a week in advance for
you
your individual.
prep everything a week in advance.
Yeah, it's unreal.
It's not always how it works. I mean, it's like I said, it's a difficult task when Mary does most of our social media, and she's brewing all our beer. So there's not a lot of time to do both of those things, right?
Yep.
Need somebody on the payroll, right? Like somebody else, and then things get bigger, right?
Well, that's a problem with
right?
it.
Like, then who gets bigger?
Yeah, it's interesting being this small. I think we're a 10 hectare brew house, and I think that's sort of the sweet spot for what new breweries are starting out as now. Like, I think if you're 3 to 5 hectare, you're probably going to hit some expansion troubles as what you want to do as a brewery. Not many people are starting, say, 20 or 30 hectare brew houses anymore. Just the capital requirements are so high. So 10 hectares is kind of a nice place. You're probably, when you first open, your production's going to be low because you won't be able to fill that need, but then it's easy enough to expand. Tanks are readily available, etc.
Right.
So I don't know. It's so difficult to balance all of these things with like payroll and the amount of beer you can produce, and your bottom line every month is always more than you think it is. You have to sell a lot of beer to make a buck, really.
Right.
Is this some of the red tape you mentioned before, or is it really a numbers game based on like supply and demand?
It's a bit of both. Like, so we opened in November 2019, so we really haven't experienced non-COVID world. So I don't actually know what a normal summer would be like.
Wow.
You can tell, like, from sales graphs, basically every time restrictions were imposed, regardless of how severe the restrictions were, sales take a huge dive, like, say 50 to 60% that. Doesn't matter what that is. And even if it has no real effect on capacity or anything like that, it's just the way people interact with businesses with these restrictions. So those have been our biggest hits. So, I want to say that's government red tape, but it's not really. That's public health. So I can't really complain about any of that. Like, I didn't want to get sick and go to the hospital. Yep. So I totally get it if people don't want to come out and have beers with a bunch of people. I absolutely totally understand that. But it's certainly been a difficult few years as a new business trying to establish yourself, and especially now we have there's some divisiveness in what businesses individuals, what they want to do and how their stance is.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And you can't really be on the line one way or the other. And you're going to take a hit one way or the other. That's just business.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it must be exciting to see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's pretty great. I don't know what's like in your guys' region, but certainly almost everybody I know now has had Omicron. It swept through Castlegar pretty hard. So it's been about a month now since anybody's got sick. So I think everybody's pretty excited to get out, and we can tell it in the tap room now, especially the restrictions looking last week, I guess. People are starting to come back out, and it'll take time. I mean, people aren't like a light switch. It takes a bit of time to get people back, and we've seen that every time the restrictions are lifted too. It takes a few weeks to people to get back and improve things. But it's definitely looking like it'll be a good summer, and I'm hoping we can jam the place full every night.
Awesome.
On the goal, I guess.
Good for you, man. Yeah, it's
Definitely
tough. Like that's a crazy to be able to start the new business, but then to be able to do that through a pandemic, and to still come out and see that light. It's exciting and good for you. Like it's a cool story, right? Like to get to the end of this and where you're at now, and the future looks pretty bright.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild time. I mean, we weren't really planning on doing any canning. We had a little October steamer, one can at a time, filled with a beer gun.
Yep.
And we were just doing that on the side when staff had time to do it. Like COVID hit, and we laid off everybody basically except me. and I just filled cans for 10 hours a day, one at a time.
Wow.
So I think the first 3 or 4 months of COVID, I did 12,000 cans one at a time.
With the doors in the
that's a whole lot
background,
of-
just
yeah.
like getting
The
you
doors
through.
in the background were definitely jamming. There was a fair amount of Seinfeld watching. I might have watched the series twice.
Beauty.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I think it's cool. All these BC businesses, all these breweries, they were resilient enough to make it through this, and everybody who made it through was switched. They were able to switch on the fly, and being adaptable is kind of the name of the game.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of doors listening, actually.
Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us. It was so cool to talk to you and to meet you and to talk doors and to talk TAILOUT Brewing. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. The podcast is great. I've been sharing it with all my buds.
Nice.
So
Appreciated.
yeah, keep on doing what you're doing. It's pretty rad.
Thanks,
I like
man.
it.
Yeah, appreciate
thank
it.
you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Right on.
All right, we want you guys to subscribe, share, and review this podcast. Keep it going, keep it strong, because we're having a great time entertaining you guys with B-Sides and Beers podcast.